His hobby is torturing his younger brother with hell training. Now he has a chance for revenge. Of course it has to be done before fighting. He lost focus because he recognized his master moved to tears already. But being happy because there is an opportunity for Sword King selling. After that everyone sat down to discuss. While Nam Gung Ra still didn't know how to refuse the marriage proposal, Hyun Fat casually refused this marriage. He was busy practicing martial arts to save the world where there was time to get married, then talked about marriage being imposed by promises from previous generations without mutual consent, which is wrong. Even though before now I have lived buried in this and been land with my humble body, but until when can I escape from the life of a frog sitting at the bottom of a well worthy of me, having to assist His Majesty in carrying mountains and rivers, dedicating my strong body and upright spirit, abundant youthfulness to take care of social security, become martial arts leader. His father heard it and was shocked, because the martial arts world is full of street thugs, specializing in committing crimes, implying Nam Gung, and they also had to be cautious, not daring to say a word. Then he left directly, saying no one objected, as if the two had agreed to end the marriage. At this time he called the owner of the gang, to inquire about the information of precious ginseng. He wants to know information about the current martial arts world and his old masters. The porridge onion that you must make them pay, according to what he said. The martial arts world is divided into three main factions: orthodox, evil, and demon. They also don't pose a big threat, but 10 years later they can cause chaos like that. All because of that chaotic lover. His eyes became dangerous. It was time to accept new disciples. Nam Sung, master, you just wait, Kaka. The next day Koa started practicing, making the guards worry clearly, and just got knocked out. The day before, I wanted to advise him to rest and take care of his health. His sister also came. What are you doing? Don't rest and take care of yourself. Hong Won's guard saw her close guard and began to have a crush. His sister also told him that the martial arts world is very dangerous because their mother died in a martial arts house, which is a wound that is never mentioned, but he still wants to rush into it. Hyun told his sister that he was no longer weak as before. Whoever met him would hit him. Sister, don't have to worry. She changed 180 degrees, stroking her brother's chubby cheeks. Really grown up. I didn't see it. This is the feeling of family love that you didn't have in your previous life. Time passed and finally it was time to reappear in the martial arts world. From a 1,000-pound appearance he became a handsome 6-pack man, which is 6 new folds. His father saw this, very worried because he was fat since he was young, so he was used to seeing it like this, also too thin, afraid he would be blown away by the wind when he went out. Hyun wants to go out and see the world, but his father strongly opposes him, then insists on going to Anhui City to find precious ginseng. Nu said the father doesn't need to worry, son will definitely return safely. He knows he can't stop and can only agree for him to leave. Meanwhile Koa was very happy because finally got freedom of action like in his previous life, but as soon as he opened the door a large sedan had been prepared plus 20 bodyguards escorting two safely. It turned out that his father had actively called Hong Won's guard and arranged for someone to accompany him to Anhui City. He went this time to do official business and couldn't let everyone know. Now I need to separate from these guards for a while, finally have a way. He called everyone. It was late already, let's rest for one day, then set off, then invited everyone for a drink. Hong housekeeper also had to ask for permission. Just like that the two drank until night without stopping. His sister even came here to say goodbye to her younger brother, but when she heard their drunken voices she left. She didn't know that Hyun had sneaked away and Hong housekeeper had been drunk. What he drank was not wine but poison, temporarily dispersing internal strength, so until tomorrow morning he still couldn't move. This is a medicine that the doctor gave him for protection. He was about to leave when he met his sister coming over. She immediately hugged him tightly and told him to remember to absolutely take care of his health and don't do anything dangerous if there is something too tiring. Anytime you can come back here, we and our father will always be here. The next day he arrived at a small village, but the people thought Kua was a criminal or a dog thief looking very suspicious, so he had to introduce himself as someone who worked for Bin district named Jin Ji Gang. Former royal knight Io Song Hoon sent me here to find something for his beloved son. Next, he asked them if they had discovered any rocks emitting red light in this wilderness, but everyone was dumbfounded. An old man told him that he had seen it a few times when wandering in the mountains. When the sun set in the west, there was a rock that received that light from the sun and shone like a red light. But that place is deep inside the wilderness, called Tower Peak. Be careful, advise him not to go there because it is the territory of White Dragon Camp. They are not ordinary mountain bandits, they are very cruel. Nothing can't be done at this time. Hyun is even more certain that there's precious ginseng there because outside of White Dragon Camp no one will ever go there. Then he asked the old man to lead him to White Dragon Camp. He was initially scared, but when he looked into his pleading eyes about to cry he was deceived and agreed. So the two set off deep into the forest and finally arrived there. However, he couldn't endanger him either. After showing the way, let him return to the village and don't forget to thank him later. Just as the sun had also set on the mountain, that sparkling red light was precious ginseng. His movements were as fast as lightning crossing the stream tightly. Thinking secretly if caught by mountain bandits then fighting underwater he also has an advantage. Finally also went to their den, but he was too lazy to deal with them. What needs to be done now is to use spiritual energy to search for precious ginseng. However, he discovered a thug beating a woman while a child was crying next to her. He had to endure doing big things, but in the end it didn't work. With one punch he broke his jaw. Then dealt with a few others to save the people captured by White Dragon Camp. Hear clearly from now on. I will show you how to escape from here. Then ask how many people are in this mountain camp. More than 50 people. This number is too many. There are also a few who are proficient in martial arts, which are really difficult to deal with. He could only delay as long as possible for them to escape. A mountain bandit came to check, but before he could act he was knocked out by him. First have to deal with the guy at the watchtower. Hyun sped fast as lightning. One punch can knock away the watchtower, and this is also a signal for everyone to escape, adding chaos. He even burned a nearby house. The bandits were waking up and immediately panicked. There was a fire, and when they tried to go outside, they were stopped by him, who claimed to be the one who set the fire. If you're good, eat it, he said, and the whole group immediately became chaotic and chased after him. It was very difficult to confront such a large number directly, so he could only slowly pick them off one by one, and each one was knocked down by him in this situation. He could only fight directly, and his martial arts would consume a lot of spiritual energy, so it was best to concentrate his spiritual energy on his legs to move faster. The guards at the door saw the fire getting bigger and immediately panicked. It was us who let him in. If the leader finds out, we're dead, they said. Everyone else stayed calm and escaped from there as fast as they could, not wanting to die. Meanwhile, Hyun's spiritual energy had been depleted and his body began to sway. He needed to buy some more time for everyone to safely leave. Suddenly, he was hit by a blow and flew away. There were 5 of them, and they all knew martial arts, so this was going to be tough. Then a group of people surrounded him. Hyun now appeared confident again. Come at me if you want, he said, never afraid of fighting anyone. This bald-headed man was the leader of Kowloon Camp, So San. He found Hyun very interesting and wanted to invite him to join his team. This guy sat down directly to recover his spiritual energy. Being a bandit is harder to recruit talent than people think, but having both strength and flexibility like a person is very suitable. He also felt strange that the person in front of him had no internal strength but was sitting there playing with toys, too many illusions. After a while, he finally recovered 1/10 of his energy and his momentum became terrifying. He told him that he was a wolf and could not work under a dog. The leader then ordered his subordinates to rush up and deal with him while he wanted to use meat to crush people. For against 1, he was buried in shadows and flew away injured. Although they were not strong, they coordinated well and attacked in groups like hyenas. Even a lone lion would be killed by them. Hyun now had to take a risk and use the first potion to easily overcome them. Even the leader was surprised by the way he moved just now, it was too ghostly. Then he used the invisible sky technique with lightning speed to deal with the leader of Kowloon camp but only injured him. His strength had been exhausted and he could only fall straight down the cliff to escape before leaving without forgetting to raise his middle finger to provoke him. At this time, his subordinates also ran over to report that there were only 3 bodies in the prison. This guy finally realized that he had been buying time for everyone to escape and his face turned blue with anger. "Even if I have to turn this mountain upside down, I must catch him," he said as he fell into the water. But this speed was too fast and it was very likely that he would hit the bottom first. Fortunately, it stopped and then he discovered that he was in a large whirlpool of water, which was really unlucky. Was he going to die here? But even if he wanted to resist, he couldn't do anything but let himself be carried away by the current. Finally, he surfaced alive. At this moment, he felt spiritual energy overflowing in his heart, which reacted as ginseng pupils. He went directly over and pulled it out because its exterior looked like a child, so it got its name. Then he carefully looked around while taking selfies. "This hunting dog finally arrived slower than me," he said. "From now on there will be no more things going according to your will." He then bit off a piece directly, feeling very happy with spiritual energy filling his body. He crazily ate everything clean, then sat down to absorb recovery power. At this moment, the housekeeper of Hong had to find him, but Hyun didn't use his real name, so it was still very difficult only knowing that he had come here. Remembering a few days ago when he was still sleeping soundly, the owner came here directly, giving him a kick in the face. At this moment, the housekeeper realized that Hyun had left and had to take the anger from his father, but luckily everyone stopped him, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to keep his small life. The housekeeper also had to run for his life to find him, returning to the group of people rescued by Hyun. They had been shown the way by the old man and responded to return to the village. He also asked about him, but the bandaged teenager didn't get any results, and the subordinates of Kowloon camp had searched everywhere possible but still couldn't find Hyun. Suddenly someone came out of the waterfall. It was Hyun. "Are you here to pick me up again?" "Save me the trouble of looking," he said, clearly looking so handsome at this moment that they didn't recognize the wrinkled face from yesterday and thought he was talking nonsense. He wanted to borrow a dry shirt to wear, but they didn't give him one and he was beaten in a daze, but his shirt was too dirty anyway. Next, none of them had any clothes on their bodies and could only shiver in the cold. Then he swung a knife lightly, killing them all instantly. The whole group immediately panicked and wanted to run away, but they were quickly killed by him. Then he looked down at the water and saw his handsome face, truly a beautiful man with this smooth skin, surely due to the effect of ginseng pupils. He even took selfies by the lake for a long time before leaving. He heard painful screams from Fuangjia, where some of the escaped people had been caught again and not a few, and the old man who showed him the way was being beaten crazily by them. They suddenly stopped when they saw him. Hyun then made a strange gesture, sitting on a snowball, wanting to play snowball with them, but this strength was no different from cannonballs. Whoever broke their head broke it, and the speed was as fast as lightning. A move that broke the sky and struck them down shattered them. It was the ultimate sword technique, break the sea of martial arts. They couldn't even recognize who he was because of his beautiful appearance. After seeing the kind old man who showed him the way of being beaten up badly, Hyun became really angry. He cut him in half with one stroke, then went over to where the old man was. Although he had changed his appearance, his eyes were still the same, and as soon as he saw them he could recognize them. Hyun used spiritual energy to heal him. Although it couldn't cure it completely, it was much better just to soothe it. He called someone over to carry him and told them to go straight back to the village without coming back here. Today Kowloon camp will no longer exist. Hyun went directly to their base and shouted for their leader San-so to come out. This ink dog is so confident because his realm is broken through now and can use unlimited internal strength. However, spiritual energy is different. Internal strength can cut and destroy everything. One person said, "Who is this dog that dares to make trouble here?" Then got dealt with by him. With lightning speed he rushed up and killed them all. Their countless arrows shot at him were also blocked by him. The bald-headed leader also had to appear at this time. He had returned more powerful than before. Now he could handle everything just as a familiar voice was Hwang's housekeeper. He had brought people here to destroy Kowloon camp, but his martial arts were also not possible. Although he was a martial artist, but still the leader called his subordinates not to be afraid to rush up and fight, but he himself ran away. How could he let this dog escape so easily? He didn't even recognize his new appearance after cosmetic surgery, but after seeing his middle finger raised he finally knew. Now even more terrified just after one night, how could he be so strong? He only now saw his immense strength. But our young master is also of the same age as a young hero, with a similar physique and a rather stubborn personality. He is a person who knows no manners and doesn't care about anyone, and moreover, he eats as much as a cow. These words are not meant to be disrespectful to him. This promise is clearly wanting to die. After knowing that he was the young master, he turned 180 degrees. Not expecting that in the time we didn't meet, the young hero had become a beauty. Actually, from the beginning I recognized him. The housekeeper advised him to go home, but Hyun still had unfinished business. He had to kill the chaotic lover. Hwang's housekeeper directly brought out the security team's rope to take him home. Of course Hyun didn't cooperate. He even intended to run but was tied up by him and dragged back. Hyun now had to release his strength to knock him away. This strength surprised everyone. In just a few months, the young master had become so strong. Then everyone wanted to rush up and beat him up. They couldn't go against the owner's will. Just at this moment, the old man who showed him the way came here to thank him for saving his life. He also told him that the hostages had left safely and they were very grateful to him. This time he saved many people. But just now Hyun had consumed too much leg energy, so the housekeeper tied him up and took him back. He was still screaming crazily that the piece of martial arts was in his hands. He had to go kill that villainous Jugu and enjoy the life of a rich man, but was caught and taken home. Anyway, this time he succeeded in stealing his things. According to his previous life's memory, next would be the 2,000-year-old Siwang spirit beast. They had arrived in Manhwa, where it was indeed a prosperous city, and his father had also come here. He was still waiting for his warm hug when he ran over to Hwang's place and got angry. "Are you kidding me? Where's Hyun?" The housekeeper immediately pointed at him, making everyone dumbfounded. Then even angrier, "Are you making fun of me? How can that handsome guy be my son? He's a good fat kid, chubby, you know." When he called him, he just stood still. "This one is my son? Tell me honestly, where did you go for plastic surgery?" But after Namgum's owner found out that Hyun had single-handedly destroyed Kowloon camp, he was even more shocked and couldn't believe it. Still thinking that his subordinates were sloppy anyway, he was the only son who would inherit everything from the family and also had innate talent. After losing weight, that kid looked like an unpolished gemstone. Then he wanted to arrange a marriage between the two families. The next day Namgum, his father and Hyun's father were discussing wanting him to participate in a martial arts competition. But if he met a good master and was trained, even surpassing a famous general, even being recorded in history books as a legendary general pillar of the court,